The Avocado Incident. Jack Vale was already one bad email away from throwing his laptop out the window. By the time Wednesday evening rolled around, he had endured. 2 passive-aggressive messages from his client demanding more spark in a banner ad, the 3rd revision of a logo he no longer believed in, and a cheerful letter from his landlord informing him that rent would increase in alignment with market conditions, which Jack translated as, "We noticed you're poor. Let's make it worse." He slumped in his tiny apartment's entryway, forehead pressed dramatically against the coat rack. His backpack slid off his shoulder and thudded to the floor. "Kill me," he muttered to no one. "Preferably before I see one more email with the word synergy." He straightened, sighing deeply as he surveyed the disaster that was his week. Game night was tomorrow, and he'd promised his friends homemade guacamole, because apparently he hated himself enough to volunteer for anything requiring fresh produce. He shoved his hand into his hoodie pocket, pulling out a wrinkled shopping list. "1 decent avocado," he told the universe. "That's all I ask. 1. I'm a simple man with simple dreams." The universe predictably did not answer. He grabbed his keys, locked up, and headed down the dim stairwell into the evening. The city buzzed with neon signs, passing cars, and the hum of people trying to survive the same capitalist hellscape Jack swore was designed specifically to torture him. His hoodie was wrinkled, his dark jeans faded from years of love, and his sneakers had scuffs he'd long since given up trying to clean. His hair was flattened from hours of headphones and stress scratching. He trudged into the grocery store, immediately assaulted by the blinding artificial lighting and the world's most annoying Muzak version of a pop song. "Right," he muttered. "In, out, produce raid. We do this fast." He marched toward the produce section, weaving past carts, toddlers, and elderly couples moving at the speed of heartbreak. And then he saw it. The avocado. The perfect avocado. Nestled like a tiny green treasure atop a pile of too hard, too soft, too bruised rejects. This one, the one, had the ideal give when pressed. Firm but forgiving. A produce miracle. Jack reached toward it, heart lifting for the first time that day, and collided with another hand. Their fingers brushed. Both hands froze above the prize. The avocado wobbled dangerously between them. Jack jerked his gaze upward and instantly forgot how to breathe. The owner of the offending hand was stupidly attractive. Tall, unfairly so, with the kind of athletic frame that suggested he lifted things on purpose. He wore a fitted gray t-shirt that hugged broad shoulders and joggers that sat comfortably on his hips. His hair was short, neat, and his jaw had the kind of soft stubble Jack secretly loved but pretended wasn't a weakness. The stranger's hazel green eyes flicked up to meet Jack's. Calm, amused, a spark of challenge. Jack's first thought, "Oh no, he's hot." His second thought, "Don't let him win." His third, "I hate my life. I saw it first," Jack blurted. The man raised an eyebrow, the edge of a smirk appearing. "You hovered." Jack gaped. "I did not hover." "You definitely hovered." The stranger's voice was warm, smooth, annoyingly pleasant. "Hovering isn't the same as claiming." Jack blinked. "Your hand blocked me." That smirk deepened. "Sounds like you hesitated," Jack spluttered. "I did not hesitate." The man gave the avocado the gentlest tap. "If you hesitated, you don't love it enough." Jack made a wounded noise. "It's for guacamole." "It's for my meal prep." "Guacamole is an immortal food," Jack insisted. "Meal prep is just leftovers wearing new clothes." A throat cleared nearby. Mr. Park, the store manager, was staring at them with the kind of weary judgment that came from years of watching grown adults fight over fruit. The avocado, perhaps scared of commitment, rolled slightly toward the side. Jack and the hot stranger both lunged, then froze again, inches apart. The stranger lifted the avocado carefully and placed it back in the bin. "Neither of us gets it," he said simply. Jack stared. "Are you serious?" "Very," the man said with a grin that absolutely should have been illegal. "It's only fair." Jack hated how reasonable that sounded, and how smugly good-looking the guy was while saying it. Before Jack could craft a retort devastating enough to restore his pride, the stranger nodded, an infuriatingly calm, friendly dip of the chin, and walked away with long, confident strides. Jack stood rooted in place, flustered, staring at the spot where he'd vanished behind the cheese aisle. "Who does that?" he muttered. "Who puts the avocado back?" Still grumbling, he pushed his cart forward, and ran into him again, and again, and again. Daniel, Jack would learn his name later, seemed to materialize in every aisle like a smug, athletic cryptid. Jack went for cilantro. Daniel swooped in first, holding up the bunch like a prize. Need help reaching this one? Jack narrowed his eyes. I can reach fine. Later, Jack grabbed a pristine pack of cherry tomatoes. 2 minutes after that, he caught Daniel strolling by with an innocent expression, whistling, just as Jack noticed his tomatoes had somehow been swapped for a squished, leaking container. Oh, it's war, Jack muttered darkly, eyes narrowing. He found the last bunch of basil and stepped right in front of Daniel, adding a triumphant smile as he tucked it into his cart. That seems petty, Daniel commented. Jack shot back. I learned from the best. Daniel's grin could have powered the entire produce department. Jack tried not to look at it. He failed. It only got more chaotic. In the spice aisle, Jack attempted to sidestep Daniel, but brushed directly into his chest instead. Chest. Solid. Warm. And Daniel smelled good. Really good. Cedar. Laundry. Something clean and grounding. Jack totally didn't inhale. That would have been weird. He definitely inhaled. Sorry, Daniel said lightly, though he didn't move away immediately. His body heat seeped through Jack's hoodie, sending a ridiculous jolt through Jack's stomach. It's fine, Jack mumbled, stepping sideways so fast he hit the shelf. Jack hurried away, trying not to think about the fact that his face was probably the exact shade of a ripe tomato. The tension built again near the pasta aisle. Jack reached for a jar on the top shelf, stretching on tiptoes. His hoodie lifted slightly, revealing a sliver of bare skin under it. He hissed at the shelf. Seriously, who decided pasta sauce needs to be stored at giraffe height? A shadow fell over him. Daniel's voice came from directly behind, too close. Want help? Before Jack could refuse, Daniel reached up easily. In the process, his chest pressed gently into Jack's back. Jack's breath caught. Heat shot through him. He felt the firm lines of Daniel's body like it was unfairly obvious. Like Daniel had no right to feel that good just standing there. And then Daniel's hand slid around Jack's waist, steadying him when he wobbled. It wasn't improper. It wasn't explicit. It was instinctual, warm, protective, and more intimate than anything had a right to be in a grocery store. Jack felt his brain short-circuit. He smelled even better up close. How dare he? Daniel retrieved the jar, their bodies still brushed together, and Jack swore he could feel his heart pounding in the exact spot where they touched. They both realized the closeness at the same time and stepped back abruptly. Daniel cleared his throat softly. You really are determined to wage war in every aisle, huh? Jack, whose soul had just briefly left his body, muttered, You started it. Daniel laughed. Quiet, warm, devastating. I don't remember throwing the first tomato. Jack fled. Cowardly. Immediately. He made a beeline for the checkout before he embarrassed himself further. But fate, or the malicious grocery gods, had one more humiliation planned. He ended up right behind Daniel in the long checkout line. Jack stared very hard at the gum rack. Daniel turned slightly, leaning his forearm on the cart handle. You know, he said casually, for someone so small, you fight like a heavyweight. Jack whipped his head up, offended. I am not small. You're just... His eyes flicked down Daniel's torso involuntarily. Damn it. Unreasonably tall. Like a tree. Daniel arched a brow. A tree? A large, inconsiderate tree. Daniel opened his mouth to respond, then paused. His gaze dropped to Jack's lips. Heat prickled along Jack's neck. Daniel's eyes flicked away quickly, but the moment had already hit, like a spark shooting straight through Jack's stomach. Jack pretended to examine gum flavors with intense academic focus. A soft rain had started by the time they reached the exit. Jack stepped outside and groaned. No umbrella. Perfect. Before he could sprint into the downpour, a dark umbrella lifted over his head. Daniel stood beside him. Seems like you need rescuing again. Jack's chest tightened unexpectedly. You didn't have to. Come on, Daniel said lightly, nudging him closer under the canopy. We both know you'd dissolve like sugar. Jack snorted but moved closer. Shoulders brushed, then arms, then hips. Jack stayed closer than strictly necessary. Daniel didn't move away. Their hands brushed once, twice. Jack did it a third time, deliberately. Daniel didn't pull back. Under the dim parking lot lights and soft curtain of rain, their faces hovered closer, too close. Jack felt his breath hitch. This was bad, this was dangerous. He panicked. I need to go. Jack blurted, stepping out from under the umbrella like a lunatic and jogging toward his car. He slammed the door behind him, chest heaving. Through the windshield, he saw Daniel standing there under the umbrella, watching him with an unreadable expression. Then Daniel smiled, soft, intrigued, warm. Jack watched, fully melting inside, as Daniel murmured something. He saw the faint shape of the words. "I'll see you again, avocado thief." And damn it all, Jack hoped he would. Chapter 2. Rivals, Enemies, and maybe something else? Jack absolutely did not return to the same grocery store to see the umbrella tree guy. That's what he told Maya, anyway. She had listened to the entire avocado incident with the wide-eyed fascination of someone who had known Jack long enough to recognize when he was lying to himself. As soon as he'd finished telling the story, complete with dramatized reenactments, she'd leaned across their office desks and declared, "That is fate wearing a grocery badge." Jack had scoffed, rolled his eyes, said something like, "It was just a weird day," and then, because he was an idiot with taste, returned to the same store 3 days later. Not to see him. Not to see the guy whose smirk had made his brain short-circuit. Not to see the guy with the cedar laundry smell that haunted Jack's hoodie. Not to see the guy with shoulders you could probably nap on. No. Jack was here because they had the best cilantro in the neighborhood. Obviously. He pushed his cart down the first aisle, eyes darting around entirely too much for someone who insisted he was not looking for anyone. He spotted him almost instantly. Daniel. Umbrella tree guy. He stood at the far end of the aisle, wearing a navy hoodie that hugged his broad shoulders and dark joggers that somehow made him look even taller. His hair was slightly ruffled in a way that suggested either he was freshly out of bed or had run a hand through it a few times. One AirPod in. One hand resting casually on the cart handle. And he looked annoyingly attractive. Jack froze like a criminal caught in the act of having feelings. He considered fleeing, truly. He could abandon the cart, abandon the store, abandon the city, and maybe his whole identity. He didn't need groceries. He could live on cereal and disappointment. Before he could make a run for it, Daniel looked up. Their eyes met. Daniel's face lit with recognition, and something warmer than amusement. He gave a lazy, effortless smile, the kind that made Jack's stomach drop and flutter at the same time. "Hey," Daniel called out casually. "War's back on?" Jack's brain malfunctioned. War? Yes. They were enemies, rivals, avocado combatants. He absolutely had not spent 2 nights replaying that shared umbrella moment in his head. He straightened, attempting cool indifference. "I don't know who you are." Daniel's smile widened. "Sure you don't." Jack felt his face heat, horribly, traitorously. He grabbed a box of cereal he didn't need and tried to appear unaffected, which likely made him look deranged. Daniel began pushing his cart toward him, slow and deliberate, like this was a movie scene and he had all the time in the world. Jack's pulse went wild. He cleared his throat. Fancy seeing you here." "This is my grocery store," Daniel said, stopping close. Too close. "I live right nearby." "Same," Jack blurted. "I mean, I didn't come here for you. I came here for nutrition." Daniel bit back a laugh. "Right, nutrition." Jack's blush deepened. "Can we pretend that came out sounding normal?" Not a chance. And somehow this stupid, flustered, ridiculous moment set the tone for everything that followed. In the dairy aisle, the flirting began. Jack reached for a tub of yogurt, a normal, perfectly reachable tub. But before his fingers grazed it, Daniel appeared behind him like a friendly ghost. "Need help?" Daniel asked, reaching his long arm past Jack, brushing their shoulders together just enough to send sparks up Jack's spine. Jack stiffened. "I can reach that." "Uh-huh." Daniel plucked the yogurt easily and dropped it into Jack's basket. "You're welcome." Jack opened his mouth to protest, but shut it again when Daniel leaned down, whispering near Jack's ear. "Careful," he said, voice low and warm, lips almost brushing Jack's hair. "You start touching me like that, people will get the wrong idea." Jack's elbow had done it again, this time bumping into Daniel's abs. Abs that were, Jack now knew, rock solid because life was unfair. Heat shot straight up Jack's neck. He muttered, "Maybe they should," under his breath. He hadn't meant to say it out loud. He panicked. Daniel's eyes softened. Not mocking. Not teasing. Something gentler. Something that made Jack's heart thud painfully hard. But Daniel didn't comment. Not yet. In the snack aisle, things escalated. Jack reached for a bag of chips. Daniel reached for the same bag, not intentionally, Jack thought, but they stood too close for it to be accidental. Their arms tangled, their hands bumped, their stomachs brushed for a split second. Jack felt heat crawl into his cheeks, his whole body humming. Daniel didn't move away. He simply plucked a healthier snack off the shelf and dropped it into Jack's cart. You said you're here for nutrition. This is better. Jack scoffed. You don't know my life. Daniel's grin was wicked. I'm learning. Jack turned away, flustered, and immediately crashed his cart into Daniel's. Their carts bumped. Jack lost his balance, foot slipping slightly. Before Jack could react, Daniel stepped behind him, warm, solid, and grabbed him by the hips. Both hands. Large, firm hands. Jack's breath caught. His whole body went electric. Daniel's grip lingered for a beat too long. His fingers curved securely around Jack's waist. Jack felt the heat of his palms through the thin fabric of his hoodie. Felt his own stomach twist embarrassingly hard. Then Daniel pulled back quickly, as if realizing exactly what he'd done. Sorry, he said, voice slightly hoarse. Reflex. Jack swallowed. It's fine. I'd rather not die next to discount onions anyway. Daniel laughed, genuine, warm, delighted. The tension shifted, sweetened, softened. Became something neither of them commented on, but both were suddenly floating inside of. Somehow they ended up strolling the aisles together, side by side, carts bumping occasionally, Jack trying and failing to act normal. Jack learned Daniel wasn't just a beautiful menace. He was thoughtful, kind, smart. When Jack complained lightly about his burnout job, Daniel listened. Really listened. I get it, Daniel said, picking up a box of protein bars. Helping people move again is great, but there are weeks I feel like I'm running on fumes. Sports rehab, right? Yeah. Daniel smiled. It's exhausting, but I love it. Jack realized then that the guy wasn't just some pretty tree with teasing eyes. He had depth, substance, a quiet kindness that felt grounding in a way Jack wasn't used to. Jack caught himself watching Daniel's hands, large, capable hands, as he lifted things off high shelves for him, even when Jack absolutely could have reached on his own. You're an adult, Jack said, eyeing Daniel's cart, and you still eat like a college freshman. Daniel looked offended. These snacks are elite. You're elite. Daniel froze for half a second. Jack's eyes widened. Oh my God. He whispered. Forget I said that. Daniel chuckled slowly, eyes warm. No. I think I'll remember that one. Jack contemplated living in exile. By the time they checked out and stepped outside, the sky had opened up. Rain fell harder than last time, thick droplets soaking instantly into their clothes. Daniel held the umbrella again. Of course he did. Jack had once again forgotten his. Daniel shook his head in mock disapproval. You never learn, huh? Maybe you're just cursed with saving me, Jack muttered, stepping under the umbrella. Except this time, the umbrella was smaller. Or maybe they were standing closer. Or maybe Jack was simply choosing proximity like a moth drawn to a flame he absolutely shouldn't touch. Rain dotted Daniel's hairline, making it ruffled and soft-looking. His hoodie had darkened in patches from stray droplets, outlining the shape of his chest. Jack's hoodie clung slightly to him, and he shivered, but not from cold. Daniel noticed. You okay? He asked gently, tilting the umbrella a little more toward Jack. Jack nodded. Thunder rumbled. Jack didn't flinch, but his foot slipped on a slick patch of asphalt. He didn't hit the ground. Daniel caught him. One arm immediately wrapped around Jack's waist, pulling him flush against his chest. The other braced on Jack's shoulder, steadying him tightly. Their bodies pressed together, front to front when warm and firm in all the right ways. Jack's breath hitched audibly. His cheek hovered near Daniel's throat, close enough to feel the heat radiating from him, close enough to smell the cedar and laundry scent stronger than ever. Daniel's hand on his lower back tightened instinctively. His thumb stroked lightly, slowly, as if soothing him. A shiver shot through Jack that had nothing to do with the rain. They stayed like that, closer than they ever had, breathing the same trembling air. Jack tilted his head up. Daniel looked down. Their faces drifted closer. Closer. Jack's eyes flicked to Daniel's lips. Daniel's gaze softened, warm, wanting. Their mouths brushed, barely, a whisper of contact. Not a full kiss, but the shape of one, a promise. A shock of something electric zipped down Jack's spine. Then, a car horn blasted a foot away. Jack jolted back so violently he nearly slipped again. He stammered something incoherent, face blazing, and practically sprinted to his car. He yanked the door open, dropped into the seat, slammed it shut, and tried to remember how lungs worked. He pressed trembling fingers to his lips. What is happening to me? He whispered. Through the windshield, rain streaking the glass like soft lines of static, he could see Daniel still standing there under the umbrella, gazing at Jack's car with an expression Jack couldn't decode. But he felt it. Something was happening. and it was terrifying and thrilling and warm all at once. Jack sank back into his seat, heart pounding, lips tingling from the almost kiss. He had no idea where this was going, but he knew one thing for sure. He wasn't ready for it to stop. Chapter 3. The Farmer's Market. Jealousy Disaster. The weekend farmer's market was supposed to be a distraction. That was the entire point. Sunlight, fresh produce, 1,000 smells that weren't stress or graphic design deadlines. Jack told himself that this was normal, that he was normal, that he was absolutely not obsessing over a man he'd nearly kissed in the rain. His outfit, loose striped t-shirt, light jeans, and worn sneakers, was casual enough. Acceptable. Not I'm trying to look cute just in case levels of effort. His dark hair was a little messy from the morning breeze, his tote bag slung over his shoulder like a shield between him and intrusive thoughts. Maya walked beside him, sipping a lemonade, eyeing him with too much amusement. "You're quiet," she said. "Suspiciously quiet. That's never good." "I'm enjoying the weather," Jack said. "You hate weather." "I'm enjoying vegetables?" Maya snorted. "Still thinking about your avocado enemy," Jack choked on air. "What? No. Why would I barely even remember him." Maya's look said, "You are the worst liar alive." But she let him pretend for about 20 steps. Then she grinned. "If we run into him today, I expect you to at least pretend you don't want to climb him like a tree." Jack nearly tripped into a stall of carrots. "Can you not say things?" "It's Saturday," Maya shrugged. "Let me have my fun." Jack groaned, covering his face, and followed her through the colorful maze of tents and vendors and chatter. He was fine. Truly. Totally over it. Over him. Then he saw him. Daniel. Jack's stomach dropped so hard it almost fell out through his shoes. Daniel stood a short distance away, near a stall covered in fresh herbs and, of course, avocados. The morning sunlight caught in his hair, slightly tousled, and he looked unbearably casual in a white t-shirt and jeans. A pair of sunglasses rested on top of his head. The sleeves of the t-shirt stretched lightly over his arms, and there was a woman, pretty, smiling, holding his arm as she laughed at something he said. Jack felt his brain shut down. The first thought, of course he's taken. The second, of course he was just flirting because it's fun for him. The third, I'm an idiot. Maya followed Jack's gaze and winced. "Oh." Jack's throat tightened. "It's whatever. It's fine." "You sure?" she murmured. Jack wasn't sure of anything. He could hardly breathe. Watching Daniel laugh with someone else, someone closer, someone touching him, felt like swallowing gravel. He tore his gaze away, but then looked back immediately. Daniel leaned down to say something to the woman. She laughed again and touched his shoulder. Jack's heart twisted painfully. Maya nudged him gently. "You know, you could just ask." "Ask? Ask what?" Ask if the guy he'd barely known for 2 grocery store encounters and an almost kiss was actually dating someone? Jack's stomach churned. "Nope, not doing this. I'm just going to buy some carrots or lemons or whatever." He gestured vaguely at produce, and then go home and die quietly. Maya sighed. Jack, but it was too late. Daniel had seen him, and Daniel's face lit up. It happened slowly, a beat too long, like Daniel took a second to be sure he wasn't imagining Jack standing there. Then he smiled, a slow, warm, heart-stopping smile. He excused himself from the woman, who drifted toward another stall, and walked straight toward Jack with the confidence of someone who had never once in his life panicked about feelings. Jack frantically pretended to examine a table of tomatoes. They weren't even near tomatoes. Daniel stopped directly in front of him. "Hey," he said, voice familiar in a way that made Jack's pulse stutter. "Funny seeing you outside our battleground." Jack's voice cracked. "I was just looking at the tomatoes." Daniel looked at the table, then back at Jack. "These are candles." Jack wished the earth would swallow him whole. In fact, he actively prayed for it. Daniel stepped closer, lowering his voice. "Were you jealous?" Jack's face went nuclear. "No," he squeaked. "I was curious." Daniel tilted his head. "Uh-huh. You were staring for at least." "Time is an illusion," Jack grumbled. "Go away." Daniel laughed softly. "You're cute when you're jealous." Before Jack could short-circuit further, the woman reappeared beside them, handing Daniel a small basket of herbs. Daniel brightened. "Oh, Jack, this is my sister, Elena." The word sister hit Jack like a wave of relief followed by a tsunami of embarrassment. His entire face went bright red. Elena's grin was immediate and merciless. She extended a hand. "So you're the one Danny keeps talking about." Jack's soul left his body. Daniel hissed. "Elena, I'm just saying." She winked at Jack. He described you as chaotic but cute. I can see it. Jack made a high-pitched noise he didn't know he was capable of. Daniel shot her a look that promised sibling revenge. Alina waved and wandered off. Silence hovered, charged, awkward, and strangely intimate. Daniel turned back to Jack, expression softening. You okay? No. Jack muttered, yes. I mean, sorry. I thought she was your, date. Daniel blinked, then his lips curved into the faintest smile. You thought I was on a date? Jack groaned. Don't make this worse. Daniel leaned a bit closer, not trapping him, just leaning in enough that Jack felt the warmth of him. You know, he murmured, I like that you cared. Jack's breath hitched. I didn't care. I didn't care. I just... Daniel arched an eyebrow. Right. That's why your jaw was clenched. It was not clenched, Jack snapped. Too quickly. Too defensive. Daniel's eyes softened even further. Jack. Jack swallowed. His voice dropped. You've been flirting, and I didn't know what it meant. Maybe you do this with everyone. His chest tightened painfully. I just didn't want to be a joke. Daniel's expression flickered. Hurt. Quiet. Real. No, he said, voice gentle but firm. Jack, I would never play with you. The sincerity in his tone made Jack's breath catch. Never, Daniel repeated, stepping a little closer but leaving room for Jack to move away if he wanted. Jack didn't move. Daniel lifted a hand slowly, giving Jack plenty of time to pull back, and cupped Jack's jaw with warm fingers. Can I show you what it means? Daniel asked quietly. Jack's heart thudded so loudly he was sure half the market could hear it. He nodded once, barely. Daniel leaned in and kissed him. It was not a rushed kiss. It was slow. Achingly slow, like Daniel wanted Jack to feel every moment of it. Warm lips fitting gently against his at first, the slightest pressure. Jack inhaled sharply, hands lifting instinctively to grip Daniel's t-shirt, fingers curling in the soft fabric. Daniel deepened the kiss gradually, his hands sliding up to the back of Jack's neck. He guided Jack backward until Jack's shoulder blades brushed a wooden support beam behind a quieter stall. The shade cast them in soft shadow, the distant hum of the crowd blurring into white noise. Jack's heart was pounding, his knees a little weak. Daniel kissed like he meant it, like he had been waiting to do this properly. Jack melted into him. Daniel's thumb stroked Jack's cheek, his other hand moving down to rest at Jack's waist. His fingers slipped under the hem of Jack's t-shirt, palm brushing bare skin. Jack gasped quietly into Daniel's mouth. The sound was soft, involuntary, embarrassingly needy. Daniel's breath hitched. Jack, he whispered against his lips, and then he kissed him again, deeper. Their bodies aligned. Daniel pressing closer, Jack responding with desperate, hungry need he hadn't realized was building for days. Daniel shifted his stance just enough that his thigh slid between Jack's, nudging them impossibly closer. Jack's fingers clenched tighter in Daniel's shirt. The kiss was everything. Warm, hungry, tender, electric. A promise. A claim. Jack broke away only when he needed air, their foreheads touching, breaths mingling, the world narrowed to heat in the space between their lips. Daniel kissed him again. Softer now, slower, like he was savoring him. Jack felt dizzy, dazed, floating. When Daniel finally pulled back, Jack was breathless, cheeks flushed, lips swollen. Daniel smiled softly, brushing Jack's messy hair from his forehead. You drive me crazy, he murmured. I've been trying to figure out how not to scare you off. Jack let out a shaky laugh. Newsflash, I'm extremely easy to scare. Yeah, Daniel whispered fondly. I noticed. Jack swallowed, eyes dropping. I didn't want it to be one-sided. Daniel tilted his head. You thought this was one-sided? Jack shrugged helplessly. I didn't want to assume. I didn't want to be stupid. Daniel's expression melted into something tender and earnest. You're not stupid. You're you. His thumb brushed Jack's cheekbone. And I want you to know this is real for me. Jack felt something in his chest unravel, something tight and fearful and fragile. Daniel continued softly, let me take you out. A real date. No shopping carts, no slip hazards, no vegetable drama. Jack couldn't stop the small, shy smile spreading across his face. Okay. Yeah? Daniel asked, eyes brightening. Yeah, Jack said, warmth blooming in his chest. Daniel grinned, reaching for Jack's phone. Give me your number. They exchanged phones like teenagers, typing quickly before handing them back. When their fingers brushed, Jack blushed again. Daniel chuckled. You're adorable. Shut up, Jack muttered, but he was smiling. When Jack returned to Maya, she didn't even say anything at first. She simply looked at his flushed cheeks, his swollen lips, the dazed expression that screamed, I just got kissed into another realm, and she let out a scream so loud a nearby vendor dropped a bag of potatoes. "Oh my God, did you yid? Look at you? Jack, you..." Jack covered his face with both hands. "Please stop." She didn't stop. She demanded every detail. Jack dodged half the questions, stuttered through the rest, and walked the rest of the market in a stunned haze, fingers brushing his lips every few seconds as if confirming it had actually happened. And the entire time, one thought echoed in his mind. He kissed me, like he meant it. Chapter 4. The Real Date and the Almost. Jack Vale had survived first kisses, grocery store wars, jealous disasters, and emotional whiplash, only to find himself facing the most terrifying challenge of all, choosing an outfit. He stood in front of the mirror, holding up yet another t-shirt. "Is this too casual?" he muttered. "Is this too much? Do I look like I'm trying too hard? Do I look like I'm not trying hard enough? Do I look like a man who panicked for 10 minutes about eyebrow symmetry?" His phone buzzed. Maya, naturally. "What are you wearing?" "Clothes? I swear to God, Jack, I'm spiraling. Wear something that makes you feel cute, but not like you tried to be cute. That's a paradox, and you know it." "Fine. Black t-shirt. Dark jeans, the sneakers that don't look like they've fought in a war. And for the love of all that is holy, breathe." Jack rolled his eyes, but obeyed. The fitted black t-shirt hugged him nicely. Not too tight, not too loose. Dark jeans that didn't make him feel like a child. Cleanest sneakers he owned. His hair took only a small amount of coaxing to look intentionally tousled rather than... I woke up in a panic. He looked pretty good, actually, which only made him more nervous. A knock at his door nearly disintegrated his soul. He opened it and immediately forgot how to function. Daniel stood there looking like a casual slice of perfection. A button-down shirt in a muted navy, sleeves rolled up to the forearms, slim dark jeans that fit very well. Freshly shaven, hair slightly styled, cheeks faintly flushed like he'd been anxious too. And that scent, cedar and warm skin and something subtle, hit Jack immediately. "Hi," Daniel said softly, eyes warming as they scanned Jack from head to toe. "You look incredible." Jack's heart did a somersault. You too." Daniel laughed quietly, rubbing the back of his neck as he walked him to the car. Then, because he was apparently determined to kill Jack softly, he opened the passenger door for him. Jack blinked. "You're opening the door?" Daniel shrugged like it was nothing. "Of course. I told you, this is a real date." Jack slid into the seat, trying not to melt into the upholstery. That small gesture, simple, easy, thoughtful, hit him harder than any flirtation ever had. And Daniel didn't stop smiling the whole drive. Dinner was at a cozy restaurant glowing with warm lights, soft music floating through the air, tables spaced far enough apart that everything felt intimate by default. They were seated at a window table, dim candles flickering between them. Jack worried at first he'd ruin the vibe with awkwardness, but Daniel set him at ease almost instantly. They teased, bantered, laughed, but this time, the conversation didn't stop there. Daniel talked about his job, about athletes recovering from injuries, about progress that took months, about the joy of seeing someone walk again without pain. "You really care," Jack said, and it wasn't a question. Daniel looked almost shy. "Yeah, I guess I do." Jack found himself talking too, about deadlines, burnout, imposter syndrome, the fear of disappointing clients or himself. Daniel didn't mock or minimize it. He listened. Actually listened. And when Jack hesitated, Daniel asked soft, steady questions, never pushing, just gently nudging him toward honesty. Jack felt seen in a way he hadn't felt in years. They shared food. They shared quiet smiles. Their knees brushed under the table, each accidental touch lingering just a moment too long. Jack noticed how Daniel's fingers would twitch every time their hands neared, like he wanted to reach across the table but kept holding back to avoid rushing him. It made Jack want to reach out first. "So," Jack said eventually, swirling water in his glass. "Past relationships?" Daniel took a breath, gaze softening. "There was someone, a few years ago. It wasn't bad." He paused, eyes lowering. "But it wasn't good either. He liked the idea of me more than he liked being with me. I felt like a trophy, not a partner." Jack's chest tightened. "That sounds awful." Daniel shrugged, but the quiet hurt lingered in his tone. "It taught me to be careful, to only invest when it feels right." His eyes lifted, meeting Jack's with a warmth that made Jack's stomach drop in the best way. "This," Daniel said softly, "feels right." Jack's heartbeat skipped, hard. He played it off with a nervous sip of water, but Daniel's smile said he saw everything. They finished dinner slowly, savoring both the food and the new, tender vulnerability that had woven itself between them. And when Daniel offered to walk Jack home, even though it was just a few blocks, Jack didn't argue. The night air was cool, city lights casting a soft glow over the sidewalk. Jack walked beside Daniel, closer than necessary, hands brushing occasionally. Each touch shot warmth up Jack's arm. Daniel finally took his hand outright, fingers sliding between Jack's in a quiet, confident claim. Jack's breath caught. He squeezed back. They walked like that. Quiet, peaceful, the kind of comfortable closeness that felt both surreal and deeply natural. At the crosswalk, Daniel stepped behind Jack and wrapped an arm around his waist, chin resting lightly on his shoulder. "You okay?" Daniel murmured near his ear. Jack nodded slowly, leaning back into his chest without overthinking it. Daniel's warmth seeped through his shirt, grounding and steady. For a moment, Jack thought, I could get used to this. And that thought terrified him in the sweetest way. When they reached Jack's apartment, he hesitated at the door. "You want to come in?" he asked, voice softer than he intended. "Just for one drink." Daniel's eyes flickered with warmth, along with something darker, deeper, but he nodded. "Yeah, I'd like that." Inside, Jack fumbled for wine and glasses in the kitchen. "I swear I know how to use a corkscrew," he muttered. Daniel stepped behind him, smiling. "Let me help." "No, I got this," Jack insisted. He did not, in fact, have this. Daniel placed his hands over Jack's, guiding the corkscrew into the stubborn cork. His chest brushed Jack's back. His breath warmed Jack's neck. Their fingers moved together, synchronized, Daniel's touch firm and assured. Jack felt his entire body shiver. The cork finally popped free. Jack turned to celebrate and found himself far too close to Daniel. Their bodies nearly touched. Their breaths mingled. Daniel's hands were still hovering near Jack's waist. Jack's pulse pounded in his throat. Daniel gently placed the bottle down. A breath of silence. Then Daniel cupped Jack's face with both hands and kissed him. It was soft at first, tender and testing, but the moment Jack responded, Daniel deepened it. Their mouths moved together with a growing urgency, a hunger that felt days, weeks, maybe lifetimes overdue. Jack's hands slid up Daniel's chest and then under his shirt, as instinctively as breathing. His fingers traced warm skin, muscles shifting beneath his touch. Daniel shuddered and pulled him closer, kissing him deeper. They stumbled toward the counter, bumping it lightly. Daniel lifted Jack effortlessly onto it, stepping between his legs. Jack gasped softly against Daniel's mouth, arms looping around his neck. Daniel's kisses trailed to Jack's throat, slow and deliberate. Jack's head tilted back involuntarily, a soft sound escaping him, a breathy mix of a sigh and a laugh. Daniel's hands slid up Jack's sides under his shirt, palms warm against bare skin. Jack couldn't breathe. Didn't want to. Daniel whispered into his skin, "God, Jack?" Jack tugged him closer, heart hammering, body burning in all the places Daniel touched. The world narrowed to heat, breath, and intertwined hands. And yet, when they half stumbled toward the bedroom, lips still locked, Jack felt a sudden swell of panic under all the desire. Daniel must have sensed it, because at the doorway, Daniel stopped. He pressed Jack gently against the wall, breathing hard, forehead touching Jack's. "Jack," he murmured, voice rough but careful, "if we keep going, I won't want to stop halfway." Jack froze, breath trembling. Daniel cupped his cheek. "Are you sure you're ready? Not just because this is hot right now?" Jack's throat tightened. His heart twisted painfully. He whispered, "My last relationship, he made me feel rushed, pressured. I thought saying yes meant I mattered, and I ended up feeling smaller and smaller." Daniel's expression shattered into something soft and fierce. He stepped back immediately, hands lifted in a peaceful surrender. "Then we wait." Jack blinked. You're not upset?" "Upset?" Daniel repeated, eyebrows lifting. "Jack, I want you." His voice thickened with honesty. "But I want you safe more. I want us to get this right." Jack's breath hitched. Daniel smiled gently. "Can I still stay? Just sleep beside you?" Jack's heart almost burst. He whispered, "Yes." They changed into comfortable clothes. Jack in an oversized t-shirt and worn shorts. Daniel in a soft sleep shirt and joggers. Daniel looked unfairly good in everything he wore, even loungewear. They climbed onto the bed, lying face to face at first. Then slowly, naturally, Daniel slid an arm around Jack's waist. Jack curled closer, resting his cheek on Daniel's chest. Daniel's hand traced light, soothing strokes along Jack's back. Jack listened to the steady beat of his heart and felt something inside him settle. They talked quietly in the soft lamplight about childhood memories, silly fears, tiny hopes. Daniel told Jack about the time he'd broken his arm falling out of a tree. Jack confessed he once cried over a burnt quesadilla. Daniel laughed, pressing a warm kiss to Jack's hair. Jack closed his eyes. He thought, I'm falling in love with him. Daniel held him a little tighter, and soon they both drifted off, wrapped around each other, steady and safe in the warm glow of something that felt dangerously close to forever. Chapter 5. The Last Avocado. And Our First Night. The strangest part wasn't that Jack and Daniel were now seeing each other nearly every day. The strangest part was how natural it all felt. How peaceful, easy, like something Jack's life had been missing for so long, he'd almost forgotten the shape of it. A week had passed since their real date, and the night Daniel had fallen asleep with his arm around Jack, breathing softly against his hair. And since then, their slow-blooming closeness had settled into something tender and domestic that made Jack's chest warm and terrified all at once. There were moments, tiny ones, that replayed in Jack's mind at the oddest times. Daniel showing up after Jack's brutal workdays with takeout and a quiet smile. Thought you might be too tired to cook, he'd say, brushing his thumb over Jack's cheekbone lightly, as if it were natural to touch him like that. Jack melting instantly. Jack stopping by Daniel's rehab center to drop off a coffee and waiting in the lobby. Watching Daniel coach a client gently, encouraging them through slow movements, Jack couldn't miss the pride swelling in his chest. Daniel's eyes lit when he spotted Jack through the doorway, like Jack was the softest, best surprise in the world. Evenings ended with kisses at Jack's door. Warm, unhurried, the kind that hummed in Jack's bones long after Daniel walked away. Daniel's hand lingering at his waist, Jack's fingers curling into the front of Daniel's shirt, their lips brushing in a slow, perfect rhythm. Sweet, tingly, addicting. Jack found himself daydreaming at odd moments. In the shower, at work, staring at his computer during meetings, wondering what Daniel was doing, if Daniel was thinking about him too. And that was the problem. This all felt like a relationship, a real one. But neither of them had actually said the words. Jack knew what he felt, deeply, undeniably. But doubt crept in with quiet claws. What if Daniel doesn't see it that way? What if I'm convenient, comfortable? What if this is just a nice month for him before he realizes I'm too much or not enough, or both? Each doubt curled around his ribs until his breathing felt tight. So when Daniel texted, "Grocery run before dinner? Meet you at our store?" Jack found himself staring at the words, heart thudding. Our store. It was silly. A small phrase. But it pulled something warm through Jack's chest. He texted back, "Yeah, see you there." He didn't mention his fear. Not yet. Walking into the grocery store, the same one where the chaos had begun, felt weirdly like stepping back into a memory. Jack felt the déjà vu settle over him like a soft blanket. Daniel was already there, waiting beside the produce section, leaning against his cart in a light Henley and jeans. His smile when he saw Jack could have powered the overhead lights. "You ready to face the avocado gods again?" Daniel teased. Jack snorted nervously. "I just want their blessing, or at least their forgiveness for what we did last time." Daniel bumped his shoulder lightly. "Let's go see if they still hate us." They wandered toward the avocado bin together. The store was busy, families talking, carts rolling, loud laughter from somewhere in the cereal aisle. Jack's stomach fluttered. He was too aware of every brush of their arms, the warmth when Daniel leaned closer to point out something on the shelf, the soft glances Daniel kept giving him. They reached the bin. And of course, there it was. One perfect avocado. Jack stared at it. "No way. This feels staged." "It's destiny," Daniel murmured. They both reached for it, but instantly paused. Jack's hand hovered above it. Daniel's hovered next to his. No grabbing, no bickering, no war. Daniel picked it up slowly. He turned it in his hand, considering it, thumb brushing over the perfect dark green skin. Then he placed it in Jack's basket gently. Jack blinked. "You're giving it to me?" Daniel nodded, voice low, warm. "This one's yours." "Why?" Daniel looked at him like the answer was the easiest thing in the world, "Because I already got what I wanted." Jack's heart stuttered, like it missed a step and stumbled into something softer, deeper. Daniel held his gaze. No teasing, no smirk, just earnest warmth. And suddenly Jack knew. He wasn't convenient. He wasn't temporary. Daniel was choosing him. Clearly. Deliberately. Completely. His breath hitched as something inside him broke open in the best way. "Daniel," he whispered. Daniel smiled like he knew every thought running through Jack's mind. "Come on," he said softly. "Let's head out." They walked to the parking lot under a light drizzle. Rain kissed the pavement, soft and rhythmic. Daniel pulled out the same umbrella he'd used the first night they met. Small, old, and fitting both of them, only if they stood scandalously close. Jack stepped under it. Daniel stepped closer, much closer, his arm brushing Jack's, then staying there. They were practically wrapped around each other, moving as one under the tiny fabric shield. But halfway to the car, Daniel stopped. Jack looked up in confusion. "What?" Daniel set the umbrella aside so the gentle rain fell on both of them, cool droplets clinging to Jack's hair, dotting Daniel's shoulders. Daniel lifted his hands and cupped Jack's face, thumbs brushing raindrops off his cheeks. His fingers were warm despite the cool air. "Jack," Daniel said softly. Jack's breath caught. "Yeah?" Daniel's voice came raw, steady, trembling at the edges with honesty. "I'm in love with you." Jack's lungs forgot how to work. Daniel continued, rain rolling down his temples, soaking the thin fabric of his shirt. "I didn't plan any of this. I didn't expect you. I didn't expect a fight over an avocado to lead me to someone who makes everything feel better just by showing up." He swallowed. "But I don't want this to be casual. I don't want to pretend I'm not falling harder every time I see you." Jack felt his eyes sting. His throat tightened. Every fear, every doubt dissolved instantly. "I've been..." He sucked in a shaky breath. "I've been terrified to say it first, but I am." His voice cracked. "I'm in love with you too, Daniel." Daniel exhaled shakily, relief washing over his face like sunlight through clouds. Jack laughed through a choked breath. "You turned the worst week of my life into the best thing that ever happened to me." Daniel's thumb stroked his cheek. "Come here," he whispered, and he kissed him. The rain fell steadily around them, soaking into their clothes, cooling their fevered skin as their mouths met, deep, hungry, full of all the desire they'd been holding back. Daniel's hand slid into Jack's hair, gripping lightly, guiding him closer. Jack's hands clutched the sides of Daniel's damp shirt, pulling him in until there was no space at all. They kissed like they couldn't get enough, breathing each other in, laughing breathlessly between kisses when their noses bumped, or when a raindrop slipped straight down Jack's neck and made him shiver. Daniel's lips traced the water on Jack's jawline. Jack gasped softly, warmth pooling low in his stomach. "Let's go inside," Daniel murmured against his skin. They stumbled into Jack's apartment, still kissing. Shoes kicked off, umbrella abandoned, rainwater dripping onto the floor as they pulled each other toward the living room with desperate hands. Jack couldn't stop touching Daniel, his shoulders, his jaw, the warm skin beneath his damp shirt. Daniel lifted Jack easily for a brief, dizzy second, Jack's legs wrapping instinctively around his waist, before Daniel set him down again gently, kissing him like he needed to taste every breath Jack took. They broke apart only long enough to whisper each other's names. When Daniel kissed him again, softer this time, Jack pulled him toward the bedroom. They didn't rush. They didn't need to. Daniel's hands slid under Jack's shirt, lifting it slowly, revealing warm skin inch by inch. Jack tugged Daniel's shirt off his shoulders, voice catching on a breath as he traced the lines of muscle underneath. Daniel's mouth moved along Jack's neck, kisses soft and heated. Jack gasped against his lips, fingers trembling where they curled at Daniel's hips. Between kisses, even with desire thick in his voice, Daniel still whispered, "Tell me if you want to stop." Jack looked up at him with steady, shining eyes. "Don't stop." Daniel kissed him again. Slow, reverent. The narrative softened, pulling back as they fell onto the bed together, their bodies illuminated by the warm lamplight. Rain tapped against the window, steady and comforting, cocooning them in their own private world. Their laughter mingled with soft breaths. Fingers traced tender paths along arms and backs. The glow of the lamp washed over shifting shadows as they held each other closer and closer, and the scene faded gently to black as two hearts chose each other fully. Morning light slipped through the blinds in soft gold, warming Jack's cheek. He blinked awake slowly. Daniel's arm was draped around his waist, bare shoulders against Jack's back, their legs tangled comfortably. Daniel breathed in slow, even waves, face pressed into Jack's neck as though he had no intention of letting go. Jack smiled without meaning to. Daniel stirred, lips brushing the back of Jack's neck in a sleepy kiss. "Morning," he murmured. Jack turned slightly. Daniel tightened his arm, pulling him impossibly closer. They lay there, wrapped up in each other, until Daniel kissed the back of Jack's shoulder and whispered, "So, who won the grocery store war?" Jack huffed a sleepy laugh. "I got the avocado and the guy. I'm pretty sure I won." Daniel smirked lazily. I got you and your guacamole. Sounds like a tie." Jack twisted enough to kiss him, slow, warm, content. Best bargain I ever made. Later that morning, they stood in the kitchen together, sunlight pooling warmly on the counter. Jack sliced open an avocado, perfectly ripe. Daniel slid his arms around Jack from behind, chin on his shoulder, hugging him as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Jack leaned back into him, smiling as he mashed the avocado for breakfast. The avocado sat in the center of the counter, quiet, unassuming, the silly little green symbol of the moment two lives collided. A reminder that fate sometimes shows up, disguised as a grocery store war. And that sometimes, just sometimes, the fight is worth it.